Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. And as always on a Tuesday night, I'm joined by Liam Kennedy from the Shields Gazette. Good evening, Liam.
All right, how are you doing, Steve?
Yeah, good, mate. Good to see you. And judging by the people who are waiting to watch the show and judging by the comments we've got, it's going to be quite a busy hour, mate. We are going to get joined by a well-known supporter, Darren Curry. He'll be joining us at about 6:30. So looking forward to seeing what he's got to say about recent developments at Newcastle United. But we'll dive straight in with the questions because, as always, we're getting inundated. Sean Foreman says, "Hi, lads. Something that I've been scattered about social media in recent weeks is the journalists such as yourself, Liam, not sourcing where the information comes from. Why do journalists do this?" Good question, Sean.
No, it is a good question, and it's something, if you're outside the industry, you might not quite understand why people do what they do. It's fair enough. I understand people might look and say, well, come on, surely you can say where you got that from, who leaked that, where this bit of information came from. But it's not always the case. You've got to sometimes protect people because sometimes they shouldn't be speaking to you. There's been a lot of talk in this takeover process about NDAs, a lot of talk about leaks, that kind of thing. Well, to be honest, it hasn't been a great thing for the takeover in general, but as a journalist, it's absolutely brilliant. That's exactly what you want. If it was all quiet, there'd be absolutely nothing for us to dig with and write about. And you have to protect these people because sometimes these sources tell you things in confidence. They don't want their name put to things, so it's not right to do so because that could land them in hot water. It's a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing, and you have to protect your sources. It's one of the real sort of pillars, the cornerstones of journalism. Don't give your sources away. And I know that's not the answer you'll want. It is frustrating when you sort of see, sources say. I know I can see people rolling their eyes sometimes when I'm writing it, but it's just what you have to do. You can't give it away. And I'll be honest with this. Some people might think, you just make it up as you go along. It genuinely isn't. It's always sourced. It is, honestly. I see you smiling, Steve. It is always.
Well, no, all I'm thinking of is certain journalists who need to keep off the source.
Well, there's a few of them as well. It's certainly been rife in the industry over the years. But yeah, you have to sort of protect people who tell you things. And I think people could probably understand that as well, because that genuinely goes for most things in life. Somebody tells you something, you don't suddenly go and tell someone else. Well, not most of the time anyway.
One of my favourite stories, which does the rounds, is when we were supposed to be signing Socrates in the 70s in the 80s, and it was a story which John Gibson hadn't got from a source. He'd got when he was on the source, allegedly. He was standing in the Printer's Pie, which of course used to be below the old Chronicle buildings in Newcastle, and apparently he'd overheard somebody saying that Socrates was coming to Newcastle, so he headed straight back up to the Chronicle office to his typewriter, furiously typing away, throws the copy in, Socrates to sign for Newcastle, front page of the Chronicle. It turned out it was a student that he'd overheard, and the band Socrates was a student band that were playing at the university, and that was what had actually happened. So, it's been like that for years, mate. So sources can be good, sources can be bad. I think we know that. But listen, thanks for answering that. It's always a tough question to ask. James, following on the journalistic theme, says, "Evening, guys. I'm after some advice. I'm looking to start a career in sports journalism. Don't know where to start. Keep off the source." James is a good one. That's my advice. But Liam, what's the starting point to become a journalist?
Yeah, so there's loads of different ways to get into the industry. To be honest, you see a lot of degrees about where you sit and do 3 years at university. I'll be honest with you, I see a lot of people do that kind of thing, and I don't think it's the best route into the industry. The way you learn this job is by doing the job. So essentially, you can go and do short courses. I did mine in London. There's quite a really popular one with a PA in Newcastle. There's also a really popular one in Darlington at the college there. So you can do it quite close to home, and you do for about 20 weeks, maximum 7 months. And you get everything you need. It shows you all the tools. You get all the tools for the job, how to do your shorthand, how to do all the different things that you need almost to go into the industry. And it's a great career. I remember when I started out, you had a lot of people saying, you'll never get in there, you'll never get in. It's really difficult. And it is. The jobs are very, very scarce at times, especially in this current industry, but that's the case everywhere. But I wouldn't let that put you off. Seriously, if you're passionate about football, passionate about sport, even passionate about news, just get stuck in and give it a go. But I would say you don't have to sit at university for 3 years and pay your fees left, right, and centre. You can do it in a short course. That's what I did. Obviously, I've got a degree behind me as well, but you don't necessarily need that. So yeah, crack on and have a good go.
Yeah, good luck with it, mate, and keep us posted. Let us know how you do, and I'm sure Liam's on Twitter, as you know. Give him a shout on Twitter if you want any more advice. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help you out. Martin Russell says, "Is it true that the Premier League want KSA, obviously Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to own the 80% of Newcastle United instead of PIF? If that's the case, do you think they have a reason to stop it?" Thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, that's what we believe is the situation, and it's the major sticking point in the whole deal. It's the one thing that really would have to change for this deal to be back on track. And I don't think, for that reason, I don't think it's dead, because it may well change. I think it's in some ways, it's an unfair thing for the Premier League to ask for the deal to be changed in such a nature. But also, I can see the other side. I can see why they can't unpick the two, because there are KSA, the state itself, and PIF are one and the same in some ways. I mean, to be honest, their chairman is Mohammed bin Salman, so you can see where the Premier League are coming from. But I think it's an unfair thing. They haven't, this kind of deals in the past with Man City, for example, haven't come up under the same kind of scrutiny as Newcastle United. And I think that's what's leading everyone to feel a little bit unfair, and we're a bit hard done to, and I think that's the case as well. So I can kind of see from both sides. But yeah, that is a major sticking point in this deal.
Yeah, definitely. Give it a like, guys. If you're watching it, please just hit the thumb up button, and please give it a share as well. It helps us with our viewing figures. And if you're a first-time visitor to the page and the show, welcome, and please subscribe. If you just click subscribe, you will get a notification when different shows are on. We do different shows every night of the week, so please tune in. Thomas, good evening, Thomas. He says, "Is Jeff Hendrick close to signing for us?" I saw NUFC.com this morning where we're running with like an angle of it's undecided. It seemed as if it was nailed on, but now there seems to be a bit of doubt, which always means that agents are playing games, or maybe he's trying to get a few extra quid from another club. So what's your take on the Hendricks deal?
Well, he was a player who was offered to Newcastle United. It's a market that they're shopping in. I've mentioned on this show before, Ryan Fraser is another one that comes into that category. There's a lot of these players who have got good Premier League experience and are available for nothing, and there is a lot of suitors for these certain players. Newcastle United are in for Hendrick, they're in for Ryan Fraser, they're in for the lad Onu Lusamba from France. But these players, to be honest, and Matty Longstaff comes in that category, it's a fantastic opportunity for these players who don't have clubs, because in a COVID sort of affected transfer market, there's so many clubs looking for that bargain. And I think getting somebody like Jeff Hendrick, I actually think he's not a world beater, don't get us wrong, but I think he wouldn't be a bad signing for Newcastle, because he's hard working, he's solid in that midfield. Yeah, he doesn't score goals, but he recycles the ball well and he moves it well. And I don't think he's a bad sign. I've said that about Ryan Fraser as well. I think he'd be a younger, fresher upgrade almost on Matt Ritchie in that position. And I think they are two players that Newcastle United want. Is the deal in doubt? I don't know for certain what the ins and outs of that deal are, but I do know he's a player right at the top of the list.
Tom Dixon, carrying on the football transfer side. Any deals coming or going in the transfer market? Is there anybody, Liam? Is there anything we're close to, or is it still a bit early?
Well, I think it's still a difficult market at the moment. In many ways, that everybody's got a short space of time. Everybody's working on so many different targets on different levels. And I think that's the same in Newcastle United. We've seen a number of names mentioned in the last sort of even 3 or 4 days. It's probably double figures. And I think that's representative of the market. Newcastle have got the feelers out, that they're spreading the market left, right and centre. And I think things will start to develop probably in the next couple of weeks, but I can't say for certain if anything's really close. I don't think anybody can really, because there's so many so many clubs working in such a short time scale, short market. That it's really difficult for deals to get done so quickly. And these players have got a lot of options as well, so it's not a case of just turning up and signing a player, because Newcastle are in the same market as Everton, they're in the same market as West Ham, they're in the same market as Crystal Palace. We're all looking at the same players, and that's why Newcastle United, it feels like a bit of a scattergun approach, but they genuinely are looking for a striker. They do want another winger. A midfielder was really high up on that list as well. And then obviously the fullback positions need sorted as well, because DeAndre Yedlin wants away this summer. I think that's a deal that will get done. He's on decent money, and I think if he wants to go back to America, he'll probably have to adjust those thoughts on what he can earn. But there has been, I'm not sure if there still is, but there has been interest previously with regards to Bundesliga. So there's players like that. Fabian Schär's got a year left. There could well be interest in him. Dwight Gale's got question marks. He wants to keep him, but again, it's on massive wages and has got a year left. There's plenty of ins and outs that could happen, but so much is up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, Thomas's question asking about an article in the Times that Richard Masters has had meetings allegedly with BN Sports. Isn't that a violation of the NDA, he says?
Without knowing exactly what the non-disclosure agreement is, it's impossible to say whether it would be a breaking of that disclosure agreement. So it's difficult. I don't know. I would imagine it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good if these kind of conversations have gone on and the lines of communication have stopped with the actual buyers. But again, without being 100% party to all these negotiations, it's impossible to say.
Tom Dixon's asking what your thoughts were on Keith Downey's tweets. Mike Ashley seems to be quite vocal. It seems, certainly pushing the angle that his lawyers will be looking at this, I think, and that seems to be the media line at the minute, that Mike Ashley is wanting this deal to go through, and he is the one who has to speak to the Premier League. And I would imagine because PIF and the consortium have pulled away from this deal, that he will. Obviously, every communication still has to go through him because he's the owner.
Yeah, you mentioned it on Friday night, Steve, in the meeting, the NUFC meeting. You said that he wants to go, and that's, if there's one thing we can 100% take from this, the guarantee is that we were never sure before that if he wanted to leave this football club. Everyone says that he's cash cow, that kind of thing, but he's desperate to get out this time. And if he doesn't take legal action, it will be a bizarre step. I think he will. I think he will go down that route because he wants out. He wants his money. He wants to spread that money around the rest of his businesses. So for me, it's only the logical step, or the logical next step, because the power is with him. He essentially is, the Premier League serves him. He's the owner of one of the 20 stakeholders in that division. The Premier League serve him, and they're restricting him from selling that football club to somebody who wants to buy it. And I'd be shocked if he didn't take legal action. And I did mention it in a piece on Sunday, reiterated on Monday. Keith said it on Monday. The legal teams are ready. They're ready to go. They've been ready to go from all angles. And that also includes the opposite angle, being sports and the likes. They've got their legal teams ready as well. Everybody's ready and waiting for the Premier League just to take one step, say something, and then I'm pretty sure everyone would kick into action. But one thing I can say for sure is these legal teams are making a lot of money out of this takeover.
I wish I was a lawyer, I tell you that. They're definitely the people who've made money out of this last 17 weeks or so. It's absolutely mental. Les Lumsden says, if it all goes wrong with the takeover, do you think we'll go down the route of the Mackhams? I presume he means into the third tier of English football. I certainly think that's what a lot of people feel, that if we get stuck again and Mike Ashley remains in charge of the club without a buyer coming forward, there'll be no investment. He wants out. He probably won't be able to get out, and it could lead to relegation.
Yeah, I think it's a big ask to drop that far, though. So I think take it one step at a time. It is a long way to go, though, isn't it?
Mind the gap.
Yeah, definitely, massive gap. It'll probably be a big gap for a long time as well. But no, I don't necessarily think that. No, I don't think this squad is great. But I still think there's worse squads in the Premier League. There's not many worse, in terms of managerial teams and that kind of thing, but I still think there's worse in that sense. And I think Newcastle will probably be all right with a couple of shrewd additions. If they don't add anybody or add really poorly, like they did say, if there's another Joe Linton, another 2 or 3 of those, they could be in trouble. But again, it's a long way to go down to suddenly become Sunderland. So no, I don't necessarily think that's the case.
Fair enough. Paul Oxley says, hi lads, with having a limited budget, do you think Daniel Sturridge would be a good target to go for? Not many strikers about. It's a no from me.
No. I think it's quite clear to see from his recent years, even the loan spell when Rafa tried to sign him, he went to West Brom. Was it West Brom?
He knocked his back, and it's not the first time he's knocked his back.
No, it was a second or third time he's done it, and he never scored a goal. Or barely scored a goal and barely played a game. So I think you've just got to look at his recent career to suggest he's probably a lad who's had too many injuries, too many problems, and he's probably done it, 30, 31? So I wouldn't touch him with George Poole.
Mad Mag Mark says, what do you think of the independent football ombudsman reply? I read it. I thought it was copy and paste. I think everybody got the same reply.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Really disappointing. This is something that we've pinned our hopes on. It's been pointed out by the Prime Minister, by others, and it looks like to me from that reply and the lack of clarity in that sense that they couldn't even put a tailored reply in. they're meant to have already spoken to the Premier League. Is this something that they're going to shape, or is there going to be any comeback? These are questions I asked of them this morning. Never really got much reply. I think it's really disappointing because we're pinning our hopes on them having some kind of political might, and they look a bit toothless to me. So I wouldn't really be holding my breath that they're going to come back with anything, any kind of statement that's worth any salt from the Premier League. But you never know. You never know. But I think from speaking to them today, my hopes of that avenue really bringing any fruit is gone down the pan, really.
Dan Milne says, since Ashley's communicating with Piff, do you think we'll finally stop hearing about Maurice? I don't think so, Liam. I don't think we will stop hearing about it. And I gather, when you look at the whole scenario at the minute, because the consortium has withdrawn its bid, then it means we're probably going to see at least one or two other stories rear their head. Maurice might be one. There might be other consortiums trying to get their act together. Some who want a bit of publicity, you might just come forward and say, yeah, we want to buy the club.
Yeah, well, we've seen that, haven't we? We've seen that over the years. There's always going to be interest in Newcastle United while it's on the market. With Morris, I think it's a really, really difficult one to add any weight to. We've said this on here before. I think it's there's certain journalists have really, really gone heavy with this Henry Morris story. There's obviously briefings going on. I haven't been party to those briefings, I'll be brutally honest with you. But nor am I particularly interested in being involved in them. I don't see the bid having much of a chance. It's not even a bid. It's not even a bid. I'm saying bid, and it's not even a bid. And I think that tells the whole story.
Yeah, it does. V for Vendetta says Sky Sports are silencing Pete Graves for sharing the petition on Twitter. Sky Sports are enabling and supporting the Premier League. Disgusting. Yeah, I mean, I did see Pete share that, and I think I did think from his, from his point of view, he usually plays with a straight bat, and I thought that was a little bit controversial when I saw that he'd shared it, and then obviously not a good move when the Premier League are involved with your workplace, and listen, great that he did, but. Yeah, I get the impression he's probably being made the scapegoat here.
Yeah, because he'll not be the only one. There'll have been bits and bobs before. I think they're giving quite free rein in terms of their social media with Sky. So it's a shame. It's a shame you kind of voice exactly what you want. But I think probably some of the wording and the way that the petition was pointed would obviously jar with the policy that Sky Sports have had and the relationship that they've got with the Premier League. So I mean, it is understandable, but it's not a great thing to see. You don't want to see people gagged, essentially. You want to see people have a bit of character, be able to say what they want to say on social media, because it essentially is their social media. But if you're going to carry the Sky tag with you, I'm the same. If I carry my JPI Media tag with us, you've also got to stand up for the values of the company, unfortunately, and it is what it is.
Yeah, Nicholas, I've got to say 100% agree with you. I didn't see this. Richard Master's home address has been posted on Twitter. Very silly move, that in my opinion. All fans should be discouraged from doing silly stunts. Yep. Don't think you'll get any arguments from me or Liam on that.
The argument, doesn't it? It cheapens the argument. I know people are angry and frustrated, but we've got to try and be as professional and as calculated as we can be on this. And attacking people in their own homes is not the way to go about things. It just isn't in any walk, any way of life. So I would definitely, as you said, Steve, discourage anybody from thinking of going to his house, knocking on his door, posting him a letter, whatever. Just don't do it. It's really not right.
Duncan Castle's Off the Transfer podcast thinks Newcastle takeover political push is a good one, but doesn't think it will result in anything. Well, interesting. It's all about opinions. I think a lot of people picked up on Twitter yesterday that the Saudi ambassador was at 10 Downing Street, and one would imagine that maybe he's had a little bit to say about the ongoing transfer, takeover saga at Newcastle.
It's bound to have come up, isn't it? It's got to have. Yeah.
Got to have done. Got to have done. Yeah.
Words.
Well, yeah. I mean, I genuinely believe that something will have been said. Cooperman does as well. He says, "Help me out. There has to be something going on in the background with no talk from the Premier League. What do you think?" Yeah, I genuinely think there is still something going on, and I think Mike Ashley's comments show that. Mike Ashley, as I went out and said on Sky Sports the other day, He needs to look at working with the supporters. He needs to look at working with the fans and giving us a bit of an idea of what he needs us to do. And I think we've done it. I think collectively we've done it. I don't think it took the supporters' trust to do it. I think collectively Newcastle fans stood up when they needed to be and were counted. It wasn't the supporters' trust who set the petition up. It was a fan in the street who did that. I think you've spoken to him for the paper, Liam, and fair play to him. You know what I mean? All of this about it was on the wrong forum, and maybe somebody signed it twice, or somebody signed it with Dick Masters, or whatever. We see all of that. It wasn't about that particular petition. It was about the fact that 100,000 people took the time out of their lives to sign it, and it got the message across. And then subsequently, the idea that the trust came up with about setting up a platform to contact MPs was a very good one, because ultimately it took no time at all to fill the MP letter in, and subsequently 6,500 letters went out within 2 days, and over 40 MPs now, I think, have raised the question. So political pressure, although Duncan Castles off the Transfer Podcast thinks it's not going to do any good, I beg to differ. I think it will make a big difference.
But it can't do any harm. That's the way I look at it. It's like, what, you mentioned it there. It brought everybody together. It felt like being part of something. We've been forgotten as fans. I'm talking as a fan here, not necessarily a journalist, but we've been the forgotten lot, really. We've been overlooked in every sense, and it felt really empowering to take something back, have a goal rather than do nothing. And I think a lot of fans will have taken some kind of comfort from that we can actually do something. And I think it already has had an effect. It's been talked about by MPs. Yes, there might be a little bit of cheap political point scoring, etc. But at the end of the day, we've taken this, the fans have taken this argument right up to 10 Downing Street. And I think there is a pat on the back needed for a lot of people who've got involved in this and really pushed it. Steve, you're involved. You've been heavily involved. The trust and the lad who did the petition, the lad who stood outside with the Premier League. Yes, it might be a joke to some people, but you know what? It's all played its part, and I think it's fantastic. And you mentioned it there. I'm going to be doing a special piece tomorrow with a fan fight back, the inside story, speaking to a lot of people who've been involved in this. And I think that's something that matters a lot to me, because I felt helpless in some ways. I was getting fans messaging me when things were going wrong, and you feel helpless. You could feel it coming through your keyboard. People were felt helpless out there, and it's nice to celebrate when everybody's taking a bit of control back. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yes, it might come to nothing. It might come to nothing. We don't know if it'll mean anything ultimately, but I think it has had an effect. And anybody to say that it hasn't is totally denied.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of people asking us about TalkSport this morning. It's on there now. If you go onto TalkSport's website, you can listen back. I was on between 11 and 11:15 with Simon Jordan and a presenter whose name, I can't even remember because Jim White was on holiday. And to be honest, it was, they did try. The presenter didn't really know what he was talking about. It was almost as if he'd been half briefed on it. Simon Jordan, I thought, was fair, and I thought it was a fair discussion. I gave a good discussion and good answers, and they asked all the relevant questions. It was a bit like being on the Andrew Marr show at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, to be fair, but I enjoyed it. Listen back on it and give us your opinion. Send us a message on Twitter. TRNUFC says genuine bid with a willing seller, and the Premier League had no grounds to reject it, so they just ignored it, hence the corruption point. If the issues are piracy, Khashoggi, etc., reject it. The media don't get it. TR, I will stand up for Liam. He does get it. And if you read the Shields Gazette, that's honestly, get the Shields Gazette. He's had his finger on the pulse, Liam. And I'm not just saying that because we do the show together. I would read some of Liam's stuff. It's been excellent. Phil Wilson says, do you think the other big clubs, Liverpool, Man City, have influenced the stalling over the takeover? Amanda said in a statement that that's what happened. That Liverpool and Spurs were two of the teams she mentioned, weren't they? So I would say yes.
I think it's unfair to cut a Man City in with that, because there are reasonably close ties between Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia, and I don't think it's something that they would be fearful of. Man City, Man United, I don't think did reject it, but it has been reported. I think it is true that there were two clubs in particular. Some others further down the pyramid also weren't happy. But yeah, the power that seems to be yielded, or the power that's suggested. There's been a New York Times article been doing the rounds. I'm very, very aware of it. And in some of the suggestions in that the Premier League top six and the top two have basically veto rights over any decision that's taken at the top end of the Premier League boardroom is incredible. We didn't know it wasn't a level playing field. If it isn't a level playing field, tell everybody it's not a level playing field and then deal with it from there. But you cannot just be saying, "Oh, right, here's a ball, we'll kick it around in the park, and then, right, I'm taking it because it's my ball and I'm taking it and going home." That's effectively what the Premier League are doing. The top six are in total control of everybody else. This isn't meant to be that way. This is meant to be a Premier League with 20 stakeholders, each one of them holding exactly the same power. And I know that Man United bring more money in than, for example, this season Bournemouth, but that doesn't mean they're any different because you still need Bournemouth to play Man United twice a season. So everybody should be equal. That's my opinion.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. There's no doubt about that at all. Liam, when are the Premiership fixtures out for next season? I think I saw them on NUFC.com. Is it the end of this month?
Yeah, it is. It'll be the end of this month. So obviously it's all over the place, isn't it? With all the changes, we usually expect them in June, but we're massively behind. But yeah, I expect it to be the end of the month. Yeah.
Okay, Cumbrian Mag, thanks. He says the person who tweeted Richard Masters' address has deleted the tweet. Sensible lad. Chris McCarthy says, "Evening, Steve. Just caught up on last night's show. Ladies did a cracking job, and I'm still laughing at some of them names. Betty Arthur. Yeah, well, God, it spiraled out of control last night with people suggesting female names of players. Like we had Mary Dina and stuff like that. It was hilarious. A lot of people just coming out with Laura Robert and stuff like that. But it was very funny. It was one of those things. Dan Milne says, "Has Richard Keys popped up again, or is he still deleting tweets?" Not heard a thing from World Hairy Hands. He's disappeared off the face of the earth, Liam.
No, he certainly has. And I would, do you know what? I'm going to put an appeal out here. I've been reluctant to do it on Twitter. Does anybody have any screenshots of tweets that Richard Keys deleted? Because I see a lot of people saying he deleted tweets. I messaged a few people in DMs just to say, have you got any evidence? Nobody could come back to me with any evidence of what Richard Keys had deleted. Anybody out there got any evidence? Please feel free, reach out on Twitter and send it to us, because I am actually interested to know what he has deleted. But yes, he's been very, very quiet. You would imagine the situation as it is, he would be gloating because he's been so happy to do that constantly throughout this process. He didn't want Saudi Arabia buying, effectively Saudi Arabia buying Newcastle United. I don't really think he wanted Newcastle United to be successful either. So it's really strange that he hasn't been out there. And if this tweet delete thing is correct, I'd love to know about it, really would.
Yeah, a couple of minutes' time, we'll be joined by Darren Curry for the last half hour. It'll be good to have Darren on, get a fan's perspective. So we'll get another couple of questions in. Himanshu, good to see me. He says, "Are the Premier League afraid that if the takeover is approved, a lot of skeletons would be found in the closet?" I think that's a big worry, isn't it, for the Premier League, Liam, that if this does become nasty and it does go legal, that there could be a few skeletons come out the cupboard, couldn't it?
Well, that's what happens in these cases. If everybody is made to sort of lay out exactly what's happened, there are paper trails for everything. And then if there isn't if the things have been deleted, then that causes even more problems. But I don't know if there has been any kind of corruption or collusion behind the scenes. I'm certainly not going to put myself in that legal hot water. But I think were it to become legal, these things would be outed, and I think there would be massive issues if somebody had done something wrong. And I'm sure there's so many legal people involved in this takeover process from every single angle that I'm pretty sure if something had happened to this point and there was definite proof of it, we probably would have seen legal action by now. So I would just sort of temper that argument with that idea. Jason
Carter says, "Liam, is the deafening silence from all parties lately a good thing?"
I'm normally of one when it goes this quiet to sort of suggest something's going to happen, but it isn't. Not at the moment. So yeah, I wouldn't go down that route yet.
Dave Smith says the report in the Telegraph just now saying Ashley could sue the Premier League, and if PIF want written assurances from the Premier League that the deal would go ahead if they were to return, I still don't think this is over. Bernie's just asking about Pete Graves and Keith Downey, and did they get a slap on the wrist? Nobody knows, and I don't think we'll hear from them about that. If there have been, they'll probably keep that in-house, but fair play to them for sharing the petition. And Keith, as I said last week, was more than happy to get involved, even though he was on holiday, to try and get our point across on Sky, which he did. And I'm thankful for him for that. Michael Hurst says, "Hi, Steve and Liam. How are you?" Great. Question for Liam. If you weren't a journalist, what job would you do, Liam?
Cheers for the question, Michael. It's actually a really good one. It might be a bit dull, a bit boring, but I was actually training to be a history teacher before I decided to take the option into journalism. And I think if journalism were to close its door on me, I would probably decide to become a history lecturer, something along those lines. That's where my passions lie. Politics, I love history. And so in a weird kind of way, I've actually quite enjoyed some of this research and this geopolitical stuff. So probably something like that. Great question.
Great stuff. Okay, as always, we always have different people on, different guests. It's a pleasure to welcome Newcastle United fan Darren Curry. How are you, Darren?
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, good. Thanks for coming on, mate. Nice to see you. And anyone who doesn't know Darren, I probably want to pick one of the highlights of recent seasons was the trip down to Fulham when Darren and his pals organised the boat trips. And I don't think I've seen an away game as popular for starters for fans just going down and having a drink and enjoying themselves, not being too concerned about the football, just going for the fact that they were taking part in a Geordie Armada. Darren, great idea, and it was a big success, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great success, sir. Time taken for me, like, and to be honest, it done me head in a bit. Like, it was, I think we had 1,400 doing there, 7 different boats, people coming at different times. I had pubs opening at different times, and then when Fulham won the other night, all the messages started again. Can we do it again? Aye, great. Good to see the fans smiling on it.
Yeah, it is, mate. And I mean, it is hard work doing stuff like that. You know what I mean? And well done as well. I've been watching the stuff on NUFC.com. You and the lads got together as well, and made a lot of money for the food bank, didn't you? With a few donations and stuff.
We're doing a lot of stuff. We've raised 50 grand in Anto, yeah.
Brilliant, that, mate.
People haven't seen that, People only see the bad side of some fans, and it's there's a good side. There's a good side to lads, yourself. There's a lot of donations going into different things, funerals when people die, fans, and stuff like that. So there was a little old lady got mugged the other week, there was 1,500 went into her. But I mean, it's quite a few. It's just a couple of quid here and there,
No, it's good, mate. It's good, and as I say, it's great to see fans doing that, and that's one of the reasons I got you on. What's your take on the takeover, mate? I mean, I know you work away as well, so it must have been even more mental turmoil for you, trying to check Twitter and that when you're coming off shift.
I've ignored it.
Have you?
I've actually ignored it, and I've just thought, see what happens, because it's happened that many times. We're close, we're not close, I ignored it. I was disappointed, obviously, when I read a statement of them, but I mean, it did seem a bit too good to be true, didn't it? When you're looking at the players you're getting linked with and stuff like that, I mean, I'd have loved that, but we'll just have to see how it goes, I don't believe anything at Newcastle anymore. We've had 13 years of hell, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's hard to believe stuff now, Steve, It is. It's very hard just to sit there and take it all in and say, it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, from our perspective as fans, you just want to see Mike Ashley leave, and I suppose the positive that we've seen is that we know now that Mike Ashley is keen on selling the club, and he'll do everything in his power to to sell it now, which we didn't really know in January.
That's a good thing about it. Now we look like he wants to sell, So it's up to him to push it, and the fans are doing well to push it. They're getting a bit too far. Some of them sitting outside the Premier Leagues and pestering people. I'm not really into that, That's people's wives in that there,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I think we do need to do. As soon as we get back into games, the first time we play Liverpool, the first time we play Tottenham and all that, just ban it, Divin take the tickets. A bit like Rangers did, to Dundee United. Just Divin take any tickets, we didn't want to nab with them. Just for the one season.
Yeah, going to be hard.
Just to stand our ground a bit, and show them, it's not just all about them. We've got to do something with them when we're allowed back in.
Yeah, I would agree, mate. I would agree. Obviously, supporters trust. Darren has been, involved. I know you've had run-ins with the supporters trust, and I want an honest opinion of them. I mean, me, I've been on the board. I did step down. I think there's been a few things that have happened with them. What's your view on the supporters trust? There's a lot of support for them.
I think the trust's a great idea, right?
Yeah.
Actually doing it, but who are they? Who are these people? Right? Who are they? I don't see them at games. I don't see them at 10 games. Don't get us wrong. I went to them with a few little problems. Like there was a lot of trouble at Norwich on a platform to be told none of the trust members attended. I know one of them does attend a lot of games and England games, but who are they? Where do they come from? What do they do? You know what I mean? There was one person on the board of the trust who has never ever had a season ticket. Why is that happening?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
why, how can you listen to somebody like that? That, you know, I don't understand what's going on with them, to be honest. I don't, where's the money? What, you know, where's their accounts? This, that, and the other. They seem to be all the time. I agree with the trust. I think the trust is a brilliant thing, right? I do. From day one, I actually pushed that trust. But now I just think, where's it heading to? What we're doing, where we're going.
Do you think one of the lads would ever put themselves up? Would you ever consider running if you had the time, or would you have the inclination?
I know there's a few who've been asked, you know, and there's been a few who asked to start on their own and things. I don't agree with that anyway. I think there's too many groups going at the minute. The Magpie group, the Trust, and all that. I think what you need with the fans at the minute is unity. Get them all together, and let's see what's what. But the Trust, who are they? I mean, I couldn't tell you. I can only tell you one of them, Thomas, you know. And I know Thomas very well from the England game. He's a lovely kid. And but who are them? What do they do? And do you know? I mean, people are paying the money to the Trust, right? Surely the fans need to know where that money's going and what it's getting spent on. It's You know, I'm not saying there's any corruption out like that, because I honestly don't think there is, right? Not at all. But they've got to be a bit proactive with the fans a bit more than what they're doing. What's
your take on the Trust, Liam? I know you're a journalist. I know you've had dealings with them. I mean, you've spoken to, various people over the course of this takeover. The Trust have certainly come to the forefront. And, for me, look, I'm the same as Darren. I agree in principle with what they're doing. And I know there's various things that they cannot do with regards to protest, etc. But, with regards to the takeover, as an outsider now and somebody who's a Trust member, it appears that over the last couple of weeks they've potentially used the takeover situation as a recruitment drive. That's my take on it. What's your view on it?
I'm not going to get involved in your politics, Steve.
Have you spoken to them though? Have you spoken to anybody from the Trust? Yeah.
I spoke to Alex yesterday. I think I agree in principle, like you said. I think the Trust is a really good thing. I think Darren, you said there's far too many groups, too many factions in this fan base. We need everybody together, especially in situations like this where we're all fighting the same battle, or it seems like we're all fighting the same battle, or should be anyway. We really need to stick together and fight for it. I think one thing, if I'm going to be critical in some ways, I think they need to be 100% representative and fight the right battle. I think Newcastle fans want more than clarity. That's my opinion. I don't think Newcastle fans just want clarity from the Premier League. I think Newcastle United fans want this takeover. They want the Saudi takeover, because this has been painted to them as the takeover to end all takeovers. This is going to be the big money, the big change at Newcastle United. And I think there needs to be a little bit of a realisation from them that is what Newcastle United fans want. Yes, we see all the criticism. We see all the human rights things brought up. All that kind of stuff. But I think Newcastle United fans don't carry that on their shoulders. They never should. They never will. Newcastle United fans want a strong Newcastle United, and they want a strong city as well. The city's been forgotten about for far too long by governments, successive governments, whether they're red or blue. They forgot about this area. And you know what? There was going to be investment. I think people are rightfully quite peed off that something isn't going to come of this. Or it might still come of it. I'm not saying it's definitely dead. Don't take us wrong on that. But I think painting that it was obvious that Newcastle United needs investment. It's needed investment for 10 to 15 years. It's needed gutted. The ground is falling to bits. Well, we've all seen it. The training ground is a joke compared to most Championship clubs, never mind Premier League clubs. So the infrastructure at the club needs massively upgraded. From a fan perspective, I had a season ticket for 10 years. Some of the same pictures are still up when I was there. And I got the season ticket the year we got promoted under Chris Hughton. That was my last year before I went into journalism. Some of the same, I go around the ground now, see me dad in the Gallagher, and sometimes you look around, it's never changed, apart from the tellies are tiny compared to what they used to be. And things like that, just really, that's from a fan perspective, that pees me off, because you see, you go to other grounds, they're spotless, absolutely spotless, fantastic facilities, restaurants that are reflective of local pie shops, that kind of thing. Why haven't we got anything like that? Newcastle United pees me off. And then when you go to different training grounds, you see places like Brighton, they spend £20 million on a training ground. I know the ice bath thing's been a joke for a long time. It isn't quite that bad anymore, but it isn't a Premier League training ground. You see the coaches there. There's quality coaches at that football club who've got their hands tied behind their back. So for me, I think it's really, really frustrating seeing Mike Ashley's Newcastle United in this Premier League, because they're not run like a Premier League football club, and I think we all know that.
Yeah, quick football one from Paul Oxley for you. Liam, do you feel that the QPR lad we're linked with is somebody that Jamie Rubin has put forward? It's Eke, isn't it? I think it is he's talking about.
Yeah, he's talking about Eze, the winger. I think it could be somebody he's put forward. Like I've said on this show before, there were a number of lists put to the club scouting network. Some of them were with the idea that a takeover would go through, and some were that it was just going to be business as usual. It looks like we're going to be business as usual for the foreseeable, probably the medium term, if not long term, depending on what happens and how this plays out. But definitely we're going to be business as usual in the short term. And the shortness of the summer suggests they're going to have to be dealing in the market that they are. And as we mentioned before, they're looking for free players who will add value to the squad. I know that sounds so uninspiring for Newcastle United fan. Loan deals. There is a little bit of money there, but you know, once all the signing on fees, etc., are taken out of that money pot, there isn't really that much left over. But I would hope to see. I think they could still shop wisely this summer, and if they added the likes of a Jeff Hendrick, who is not gonna pull up any trees, but he's solid. He is a solid midfielder. A Ryan Fraser, who've said before, to me is still an upgrade, like a Matt Ritchie. If you could add players like that and then get a couple of clever loans in, and I think they could have a decent summer, and they'll probably be all right next season. But like I said, if there's a few more Joe Lintons down the line, then we're in trouble.
Do you really Paul think we can add Fraser, though? Do you really think we can add Fraser? I'll be honest.
Do I think you're seeing his smile now?
Hendrick's a bit sensible in it, but do you really think Fraser's going to come up here?
He has turned Newcastle down. I've written that recently. He turned Newcastle down. They offered him a pre-contract a month before the end of the season, and I think his head had been turned. I think he had eyes for somebody like a Tottenham or an Arsenal who were going to come in, but they've turned their attentions elsewhere. I would imagine, I've heard that Crystal Palace and West Ham are both interested, and I'll be honest, I can imagine West Ham would blow us out the water if it came down to wages and things like that, so he'd go there. It's not really much of a move for him. I know he's from Scotland, he's from Aberdeen actually, but you know, it's not much of a move. If he goes to London, he'll probably enjoy that for the next few years. So it wouldn't shock me if he went to a Crystal Palace, even ahead of Newcastle.
Yeah, Darren, where do you see? What would you prioritise? I mean, I think most people think a striker. Steve Bruce, though, at the end of the season was saying, I think we're all right in that area. We've got Andy Carroll and Joe Linton.
Striker, I know. We're talking about a striker. I cannot understand how you can give Andy Carroll a new contract when he hasn't scored any goals. You know, I mean, where we're going with that. You know, Joe Linton, he hasn't done out. He doesn't look like he's going to do out, but I'm hoping he does turn it around. But you can't say it, can you?
No, definitely not. I mean, it's
we've got a midfield and all, you know, Shelby and Ritchie. If you look at that goals and assists, right, with Newcastle United, they're terrible. They're terrible. Yeah. We went down with them and everything, you know. They haven't. I mean, that Ritchie's a hell of a try. He's a decent player. You know, he's decent, but after that, we don't create a lot. We need some creativity, definitely, you know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in the January transfer window, we were linked with a midfielder. Steve Bruce was trying to spend £35 million on a midfielder, which of course failed at the last minute. Couldn't get it over the line. Surprise, surprise. But yeah, I think most people are hoping for a striker. So fingers crossed. A lot of people texting about Chopra. Somebody asking if his account's being hacked. Is he constantly drunk and tweeting nonsense? David Little asks. Somebody saying, what's up with Chopra? Has someone hacked his account? I did speak to Michael today, and he's keeping very tight-lipped. So, essentially he says something's in the background, but he's not going to go into it. So, I'm sure we'll get something from him at some point, or whatever's going on in the background. Your guess is as good as mine, but anybody wants to know, maybe he's drop him a text. Ben says David Brooks would be my favourite realistic signing. Would you go for him, Darren? Dave Brooks? Yeah. It's another Bournemouth player.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Without a shout out. I'll take one of the centre forwards as well, Josh King or Wilson, but I mean their goals aren't great, but at least we know they've been in the Premiership. That means I'll give somebody else a try. I'd keep Dwight Gale, mind.
Yeah, I mean he had a good run of form, didn't he? He had a good run of form at the back end of last season. What about the situation with Mike Ashley? Let's say the worst scenario happens, Darren. and we don't have a takeover. The Saudi deal collapses and there's nobody else out there. What is, I know you said walk away for a season, don't go to the games. You know, is it not worth maybe seeing whether the fans can work with Ashley, or do you think that, you know, using the analogy about boats again, and you know, has that ship sailed? You know, can we not really work?
I wouldn't boycott. The only games I'd boycott were the teams that have went against were there.
Right, okay.
I will not boycott, right? I've been there before him.
Yeah.
I've got army loyalty points, everything. I'm not losing them to him.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's took enough off us enjoyment-wise. Right? I don't enjoy going to games. The away games, I enjoy going with the lads, you know, and the kids and all that. But I don't enjoy home games, and I don't think anybody does, to be honest. When you look around the ground, it looks bleak. There's not much atmosphere and all. But there's some good lads going to games, and you cannot work with him now. It's went too far. You just cannot work with a bloke now. He's went too far. He's done too much. I mean, we just want rid of him, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, it's a strange situation to be in, isn't it, Liam, that we've got Mike Ashley, who's now, you know, pushing to leave. He's saying all the right things, saying that he's threatening, you know, legal action, lawyers, and he's going to be speaking to PIF on a day-to-day basis. But it's a bit strange, isn't it, that Newcastle fans have now got to get used to him being the good guy for a change.
Honestly, it's unbelievable after 13 years that we've had to endure that he would be the path of least resistance when it came to a takeover. We always thought he'd be one putting the blocks up, and he really hasn't been. This just shows how desperate he is to get out. He thought this deal would be done by the end of April. When I was sitting here in August, I nearly lost track of time there. It's been difficult to remember how long we've been going on with this. But yeah, we're sitting here in August, and there's no end in sight. But he does want out. He's desperate to go. And who'd have thought it? But we need him. That's a stupid thing. We want rid of him, but we need him. We need him to push this legal angle. He's got the power to do that, and hopefully he does. Hopefully he wants his money so much that he pushes this legal angle a little bit more with the lawyers, and then we can get this deal pushed through, because we need him on our side. And that's just the weirdest thing I've probably ever said on this podcast, but we really need Mike Ashley alongside with.
Yeah. Darren, we always, when we have people on, we always like to know a little...
Go on.
Go on.
What do you think of
Henry Morris?
Then that appeared in between all this? Yeah. Does he exist?
I think he exists. I think he is an actual person. Whether he's a person who's capable of buying Newcastle United is another thing altogether. But yeah, it's nothing, and we know it's nothing. It stinks, that deal really does. And it's not even a bid. Mm-hmm. So until the day it becomes a bid, whether it's Henry Morris or he's the front man for this Clear TV bid, until the day that Mike Ashley decides he's accepting a bid off them and they put it in the Premier League, the only show in town is the Saudis, and they know that as well. The Saudis have said that. They know they're the only show in town, and Mike Ashley knows they're the only show in town. Mike Ashley wouldn't be pushing the legal angle if he knew he had a bloke ready to pay £50 million more waiting in the wings. It just wouldn't happen. He's a man who we all know he loves his cash, and he certainly wouldn't be turning that down in favour of £50 million less. So no, he knows the Saudis are the only people who've taken this. They've pushed him as far as he's ever been to the cliff in Newcastle United. And unfortunately, I don't think there's no other white knights waiting in the background, probably just a few cowboys.
Give this one to you, Darren. Jason Carter's question. He says, new captain next season, guys, or should we stick with Lascelles? He would love to see Richie as captain. Are you happy with Lascelles as captain, Darren?
I'm being honest, I'm happy with Lascelles. But anyone could captain that team at the minute, kind of. There's nothing exciting happening there. But I'm happy with Lascelles. He hasn't done much wrong, you know.
Yeah,
he's a solid performer, good character. Got it. I think you could do much worse. So I don't think that certainly wouldn't be on top of the list of things.
I can't see a reason to change it now with the players we've got, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Richie's a captain in his own right anyway. I think he's the one vocal player. I think the one thing I got from watching the games on TV without crowd noise was Matt Ritchie, when he's playing, is the one player who leads by example. But yeah, Rafa saw enough in Lascelles to give him the captaincy. Who are we to argue with Rafa? Bijwit Nag says, don't you think, Steve, that Steve Bruce should not give the number 9 jersey to Joe Linton next season? I think the jersey's too valuable and iconic to give to someone who doesn't deserve it. It's a good point. I've mentioned it before, Darren. It was probably 40 million was bad enough, but then to give him the number 9 jersey and put extra pressure on him, I thought was a bit naive. Would taking it off him now do any good?
Who are you going to give it to?
Yeah.
But to be honest, there was nobody else to give it to, apart from myself, which I cannot play anymore. But you know what I mean. There's not another player to give it to. You know, they had to give it to him.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what jersey he had. He looked a bit lost last year, Linton. I think we've all seen that, didn't we?
Yeah, no, definitely, mate.
He looked way out of his depth some games. He looked a bit shocked, and even like to Rochdale away in the cup, and I watched him, and he just didn't run it now. And I don't know. It's just I think the club's too big for him.
Yeah, TR says the number 9 should be earned. I know we have Supermac on every week, and a lot of people agree and keep the number 9 off the squad for now. You can rest it; you don't have to play it. Just maybe it's been that little bit too extra pressure. But I've got to be honest. Listening to Joe Linton, Liam, we've talked about this before as well. He didn't really feel that scoring goals was all as important, and that really worried Malcolm when we've spoken on the show. That to hear somebody who's bought to score goals doesn't think it's important.
Look, it was a flawed transfer from the very start. The lad quite clearly isn't that comfortable playing in English football. He's brought into a new environment. He's had a really tough start. He's never got any better, really. There was slight improvements towards the end of the season, but we're starting from such a low base. I think on the number 9 thing, you couldn't take it off him now. I think if you took it off him now, if the lad's confidence was shot anyway, it's not going to get any better by doing that, for me anyway. But I think the number 9, it's a massive shirt for Newcastle United. But we've had some rubbish wear it as well. Let's not kid ourselves and think that every number 9 we've had before Joe Linton was fantastic. I mean, even in my lifetime, we've had absolute rubbish wearing the number 9. So I wouldn't build it up too much. If he carries on like this, he'll not be wearing the number 9 forever because he'll be away or he'll be out on loan somewhere if they kind of get rid of him. So no, I think you've got to stick with him. He's obviously not a striker. I'm not 100% sure exactly what he is. He looked slightly better when he played off the left. But again, it's a lot of money to pay for a lad who doesn't score goals, isn't it?
Wilfred Zaha, Darren, it's another name that's getting bandied around, but I can't see that happening. Can you?
Not a hope in hell.
No.
Not a hope in hell, no. I've just seen there 40 million. There you can. They're good.
No, definitely. Nicholas's message to you, Darren, is tell Darren the Mackhams are looking to hire 3 punts to go down the River Thames for their away match in Oxford. Sunderland's a massive club, he says.
Well, I done one for Leeds and tell them Leeds had a couple as well. Well, they're not the only club that won both, to tell them.
Brilliant, great. You've started something now. Phil Carty says, I honestly think it all depends on formation, on how well we do this season. I do think with the team we have, we will survive with 20% possession every game. I mean, Steve Bruce, what was your take on his first season, Darren? He wasn't well received. He was about 11th choice, I think. What was your view on Bruce? You were there home and away a lot of the games. What did you make of Steve Bruce?
Well, you heard my interview on Sky, in China when I was a bit drunk. But
yeah,
I didn't want him. I still didn't want him, but I'm going to hold my hands up. He's done all right. He has done all right with what he had there, but I didn't want him at the club. I didn't want him anywhere in the other club, Steve Bruce. I've got note for him at all, I didn't think he's got... I just didn't see how he can go Sheffield, Sheffield United, Villa, Birmingham, Newcastle, Sunderland, Newcastle, and stuff like that. That's my opinion of him, he's not a loyal bloke. I think he's just not for me, basically. He's not for me.
Well, I would agree, and I still don't believe he's a Newcastle fan. I believe he's a Man United fan. I know there's always this talk about him coming from the area, but he's never said he was a fan. And I've been back through all these interviews over the years. I've even heard stories where he's been in bars at various places, and he's asked for the TV to be turned over so he can watch Man United. So I believe he's a Man United fan. We might never know that. Any truth in North Shield striker Mick Terrance on trial at Newcastle, Liam? Is that true?
That'll be my work mates winding me up then.
Is it? All right, good stuff. Who's Mick Terrance? Does he play football for you?
He can't play football. He can only walk.
I love it. What about that?
What do you think about Matty Longstaff situation there?
Yeah, go on, Liam. What do you think?
Really, really sad, isn't it? I think it's sad that the lad he's shown a fair bit of potential. I think he was treated really badly towards the end of the season. There was word that he wasn't taken out of the team because he wouldn't sign a contract, but I believe the player and his representatives think that it's something totally different. They believe he was treated really badly. It's sad he hasn't signed for another club. He bleeds black and white. He's Newcastle United through and through, just like his brother, and he wants to play for the football club. It's not about the money. I think the money's the wrong argument. It was shown at the end of the season. He wants a pathway. He's not guaranteed. No, he doesn't need to be guaranteed games. He wants a pathway to the first team. And that pathway was blocked by anybody and everybody at the back end of the season. Fabian Shaw played midfield. He would play literally anybody. Nabil Bentaleb, he was on 90 grand a week at Schalke. Still is. I don't know how. If you're going to sign somebody like that and give him 60 or 70 here, which I don't think they will, to be honest. But if you're going to do that, give Matty Longstaff the money and just tell him, son, if you keep your head down and keep doing the right things, you'll play games. And it's really sad. He hasn't signed for anybody else. He's a free agent. He's been released. It wouldn't be the biggest surprise in the world if he did sign another contract in Newcastle United. But as things stand, it's not going to happen. And it does pain me. I hate to see lads, especially when you see something in them, a little bit of something, not to give them a chance. I'd love to see him get another couple of years, and we might turn around still in 2 years' time and say, well, he wasn't quite good enough, he wasn't for us. But I've got a funny feeling he's a little terrier, him, and I think he would really, Newcastle fans over the years would really warm to a player like him.
Yeah, Malcolm says Bruce's list of clubs managed nearly makes up a league table, and it's certainly not Premier League. Bernie says, excellent crack as usual. The show's the highlight of my evenings. Well done, lads. Thank you, Bernie. Samuel says Newcastle should sign Saeed Ben Arma from Brentford. Yeah, I've seen him mentioned. I don't know a great deal about him. Darren, do you know much about him?
I don't know a lot about him, just what I've seen on telly, and I'll tell you what, they're a good team. They're a good, decent team. They can pass it about, Good fullback there. That is it, Henry, the fullback. They look decent. They look a decent team. Now to lose, We haven't got much money. I'd rather see somebody come in and have a go,
Yeah.
So Ben was a player that they really was right at the top of the list last summer. Alan St. Maximin was a player they signed almost instead, but he was a player that he was identified as an alternative. Jared Bowen, we all know that tale went on for a long time. He was another player identified as an alternative, but it was Alan St. Maximin that we got, and I don't think too many people are complaining about it now. But Saeed Ben Rama is a fantastic footballer, and he's been a player on the radar for a number of years at Newcastle United.
Yeah, David Little says Matty's Newcastle career hasn't been handled right. He should have been out on loan for at least a season before demanding 30 grand a week. Mark says we've been linked with Ollie Watkins. Yeah, I've seen that as well. Liam, is there anything in that?
Yeah, to be honest, the only thing with someone like Ollie Watkins is, and you've mentioned Saeed Ben Rama, he falls into that same category. Newcastle United, of course, have looked at these players, but so's 70% of the Premier League. So we're all fighting for the same players. It's going to be really difficult to sign players like that. I would say the same. There's other players. We mentioned Josh King. We mentioned Callum Wilson. I've said it on here before. Apart from his injury record, I'm a massive fan of Callum Wilson. I think he's a proper centre forward. Could really add something to Newcastle United's team. Almost not quite the same, but he's quick and he's strong. And we've missed a centre forward since Rondon went. And I think Callum Wilson could go a long way to fill that gap. Watkins is a fantastic player. Works really hard, but again, it's really difficult to sign these players because everybody's looking for these bargain centre forwards, and there's a few of them about at the minute. Some will work, some won't. I just don't think it's a go. I think it'd be really difficult in Newcastle to go and sign it. It's the same with the lad at QPR. Half the Premier League want to sign him, and it's just a case of who can get him. You would imagine probably clubs in London, you could see a West Ham signing somebody like that. They tend to go to these type of players, and the same goes for Watkins and Ben Rama as well. There'll be loads and loads of Premier League clubs want the same players.
Yeah, Benteke as well. It's another one. We're seeing Aaron Ramsey, loads of different names. And it's a season for it, Darren, isn't it? When close season's a nightmare for us, isn't it? It's an absolute nightmare.
Especially when they thought we had money. Did you see all the players were linked with them?
Yeah. That's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem. When you think you've got all of that money, and now we're shopping, as we said, in Poundland, really. Danny Rose, again, Bentaleb, Danny Rose, a lot of them. You've seen enough of them now, Darren. I wouldn't want any of them back.
I've got no time with them, no. Nah, they're not interested. I think Danny Rose come for one reason only, to get his Euro spot. I thought the Euros was this year, and he was playing just to get a spot in that squad. He's not good enough. He's not. He's finished. We've got better now. Bentlab, Matty Longstaff was better than him. You should have been playing Matty every game. Instead of that fella. At least the kid had a heart. Matty's got a heart. You're never gonna know what he had.
Yeah, everyone asking about Willems, Liam, just before we're finished tonight. Jetro Willems, is there any chance that he could come back? I think he made a great impression before he got injured. A lot of fans liked him, and weighed in with a couple of really good goals. What's the news on him?
There's a situation the club have been monitoring. I think in a weird kind of way, the stunting of football allowed him to recover a little bit more. So he is actually closer to fitness now than he would have been had it been a normal summer. Will he be signed? I'm not sure. The release clause was around 10 million. It was a little bit more, I think. And to be honest, in the current market, that would represent really good business. I don't think many Newcastle United fans would complain if Jetro Willems walked back through the door. Because I quite like him, and that goal at Liverpool, absolutely fantastic. He's a lad with talent, and there aren't that many players who can do that kind of thing as a left back. And I would love to see him back, but it's injuries that have always been an issue with him. And I think that continues to be the case. But Bruce does like him. Bruce really likes him. He went off the boil a little bit after Christmas before the injury. But again, a fantastic player. And it could be something the club look to rebuild, that relationship. But they're going to have to pay money to get it done. And we're not really sure. We've seen it was meant to be 70 million. It's 35. Now it's 30. It seems to be going down by the day. The budget isn't going to be big. That's all I know about it. It isn't going to be big. And you'd have to probably shell out at least a third of that budget just to sign him on a permanent deal, and I'm not sure that's what they'll do. Could they look to bring another loan deal when he extends his deal, for example, at Frankfurt? Might be, who knows?
Yeah, fingers crossed. Lazaro as well getting mentioned. We didn't really see enough of him, did we, Darren?
Nah. What we did see of him though, he didn't look great. He didn't look. He had the odd good moment, but that was it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be wasting 15 to 20 million on him anyway,
No, not when my budget's only about 35. God, yeah, good luck, Steve Bruce and Steve Nixon. That's all I can say. The clock's beating us, Darren. Absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. Hopefully, we can have you on again when you're next home, mate. Good luck and love to the family and take care, mate. Cheers. Thanks, mate. Bye bye. And great stuff. Great to have supporters on, like Darren, and he's a good lad, and plenty of opinions, which is what it's all about. Me and Liam, of course, will be back next Tuesday to chew the fat. And God, Liam, let's hope something moves in this. Let's hope something moves in this takeover by then, mate.
We need it, don't we? We do. I think the message I'd like to leave with is that I think fans have really done their bit. They've really, really done that bit. They need to continue doing that bit, but I think that they need to be throwing a bone a little bit. They need a little bit of something from somewhere. They need the buyers or Mike Ashley or even the Premier League just to give something. Something needs to give this week. I'm not sure it will. It might not. I don't believe this is a short-term thing. It might be a long-term thing that we're sitting playing this game for. And I know that's not going to be comforting anybody, but yeah, I think the fans could do with a little bit of something this week. You know what I mean? It could be thrown a bone by the buyers. Come on, keep going. And I think that would keep the momentum, because we all know Newcastle United fans. We know all the fans. If you feel like it's for nothing, then you might start giving up. And that's the last thing that we need to do as a fan base. We need to keep this pressure in the right way. Don't be turning up at people's houses and being stupid like that. But keep the pressure up in the way that we've been doing it, because it has made a difference and it will continue to. And if anybody's going to get this takeover done, it's going to be us. We're us fighting together. With other people on the fronts, we can't do it ourselves. But I think we've done enough now to maybe warrant a little pat on the back from buyers, from whoever it may be. Even if Mike Ashley's standing shoulder to shoulder with it, if he comes out and says that, then that's great. But Newcastle United fans probably need some little bit of light at the end of the tunnel if this kind of pressure is to continue.
Yeah, Jason Carter says, any chance of getting Keegan on? Look, never say never. My dream guest, by the way, Jason, because he did ask, would be Amanda Staveley once she takes over the club. That would be fantastic. Claire Brown didn't get your message earlier on. Change your life, put down a knife. I've been asked to wear the T-shirt by that campaign. If you want to find out more about it, just look on Facebook, search that up, and the campaign's on there. More than happy to support things like that. If anybody, anybody's ever got any campaigns or anything they want mentioned and they want to come on the show and promote it, then by all means give us a shout. Send us a message on Twitter or Facebook, or just send a message to YouTube. Please give this a share before you all leave. Give it a like, give it a share. It's all good for us. It helps us. Hitting that thumb It doesn't cost you anything, and if you can help us out, that would be great. And as always, Liam, always give you the opportunity just to give your other socials and your other shows a plug, mate. So just give give everybody an opportunity to find out what else you do.
Yes, obviously, always you guys know I work for the Shields Gazette, but it might cost you nothing to share and like, which I think you should do for this podcast. It's brilliant what Steve does, but journalism, it does cost. So we have a subscription model where we are, and it's only £1 for £1 a month for 2 months. But if you like what I do, if you like this kind of thing, my comments, my investigations, all that kind of thing, my stories on the web, please back it. It doesn't cost the earth, but it kind of keeps us in a job and allows me to do what I've been doing over the last 3 or 4 months in the Newcastle United scene. So I want to continue. I love this job. I enjoy doing it. So if anybody can dig deep and help a little bit, this isn't a begging thing or a plea, but it all helps. It all helps. What makes the world go around? You pay for a paper down the shop. There's nothing wrong with paying for a little bit if you read it all online, because the content, not just from me, from my colleague Miles Starford, Jordan Cronin, Ross Gregory, other people on the Sunderland scene, Hartlepool, whatever it may be, Middlesbrough even, we cover it all, and we'll cover it all in depth and really positively. So yeah, subscribe and you'll get more of the type of content that you've been seeing from me. And we do a podcast as well. I'll quickly get that on, and I've been talking for ages. We'll do the Mouth of the Time podcast, and we'll normally record it on a Wednesday, so watch out for that dropping tomorrow. Yeah,
Blunt Ted says, can you answer his question on Twitter, which I'm sure you will. Just getting through these last ones. Cracking show, lads, says Mark. James, great show, thank you. Jason says, do you have a Facebook? Well, you are on Facebook, Liam, so simply Liam Kennedy, isn't it? Chris says, not a problem, Liam. Great again, lads. And we've got somebody from another club who says, the only reason Newcastle fans want the buyout is because you think you'll be the biggest club in the world. Well, Darren, yes, that is true, mate.
What's wrong with that?
Exactly. So I'm back tomorrow, as you can see, with Supermac and Gibbo at the usual time of 6 o'clock. A lot of people asking where can you hear the TalkSport interview from this morning. You can hear it on TalkSport's website. Just go and listen between 11 and 11:15, and you will be able to hear my interview there. Liam, as always, a pleasure, mate. Look forward to having you on next Tuesday. Have a good week.
Same to you, Steve.
Take care, mate. See you later.
See you.